Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is my Uncharted The Lost Legacy crushing difficulty walkthrough. This is the 5th mission, or chapter, or whatever you want to call it, and it's called The Great Battle. And ironically, I can't actually remember if this level even has a great battle in it, because you go to the statue of Ganesh, and then you go deeper into it, and there's some puzzling, there's some adventuring, there's a ton of platforming, there's a lot of exposition between the two charactering, and then I believe when everything breaks away, there's a bit of a gunfight followed by you getting assailed by the armoured vehicle. So I suppose it is one of the bigger battles in the game now. I've recalled what it's going to partake, but I don't know if all of that is in this chapter. So I guess we'll discover it together, guys? But what you will find in this particular level is that a lot of the platforming that this series is known for is back in full force, and it is paced equally with the slower moments, with the expositional moments, with the character moments and such, and it all leads to a very familiar Uncharted experience. I think that this game has potentially some of the smaller amounts of set pieces as far as the action go, but I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing, because I do think that you can oversaturate the action. Like, I think a lot of people, when they play Uncharted 1, they feel like there's more intrigue in the beginning, and then it just becomes kind of shooting, because the emphasis there was definitely on the combat. And then, of course, the people who go to that game for the combat really enjoyed that about it, and potentially wanted to skip these sequences with the puzzles and the platforming. And then, lo and behold, in Uncharted 4, they gave you that option to go straight to the gameplay, which is a wonderful choice. And I want to talk about it a little bit, actually. So, if you're unaware of exactly what that feature was, you can select an option in the menus that allows you to play only the action/adventure sections of the game. And it's generally the moments where you are in 100% control and you are in danger of being killed by something in the game. Those are the moments that you get to play, and it chains them together in a sequence that doesn't have the cutscenes, that doesn't have the QuickTime events, that doesn't have the puzzles, that doesn't have like 60% of what makes these games Uncharted. And it sounds like a great idea for somebody who's just wanting to jump in and play some gameplay and you don't want to mess with all the other stuff. But I think that they left a couple of parts out, which could have definitely benefited those sequences. And a great example of this is the big chase sequence in Uncharted 4, which starts off with Drake on the wire, and then he gets onto the convoy, and then you fight your way through that. And then it ends in that wonderful spectacle with you and your brother shooting at that truck that's attacking you, and you're shooting backwards, it's on rails, it's all very hectic and crazy. It's a really fun sequence. When I was showing Uncharted 4 off to a friend of mine, just to give him an example, of how beautiful the game was and how high spectacle it was, I picked that level, because I think that level encapsulates the finest aspect of escalation that Uncharted has ever had. Because it starts off with Drake on that wire, being dragged, going through kind of like a silly, gimmicky, funny moment that's also pretty intense, and then from there onwards it gets even crazier when you're jumping between the trucks, and you're driving the car, and all that good stuff, and then it ends with a massively over-the-top chase sequence, which is, I think it's a great moment and a great set piece to show anybody to really show this game off. But it doesn't have the shooting section at the end. It doesn't have the on-rail moment. It completely stops once you get to the cutscene that triggers that on-rail moment. And I feel like it kind of stopped it right when it was getting to, the highest crescendo in that part. And I think perhaps with a couple of subtle tweaking, they could adjust some of that maybe, because when you're playing in that moment and you're shooting at that truck, I don't actually know whether or not you can die. But I think if you didn't, maybe shoot it and stun it and make it do the different paths and things, there's potential for character failure there, for a fail state to occur. So technically it still feels like gameplay to me, and it would have been really nice to see that part represented there, because when I wanted to show him the full thing, I had to play the entire level to get to that part, which is not the biggest level, but it's one of those things where when you think just the shooting sections, just the action sections, just the parts where you're in peril, you would have thought they would have added certain parts that they actually skipped. And I don't know too many people who've used that feature, so I can't discuss with them how they feel about it, but I think it's one of those great ideas that's just at the cusp of being fully realised, and I wonder if something like that will be in The Last of Us, because I think in The Last of Us that could be a really, really great addition. But it has to make sure that it includes parts that I think are still worth replaying. Because don't get me wrong, I don't think anybody wants to walk around listening to Joel and Ellie talk about shit and, you know, get all the exposition for the 5th or 6th time in the game, because you've already done that numerous times. It was great the first time, you don't need it afterwards. I don't want to be watching, you know, a lot of cutscenes and having a lot of exposition dumped on me. I want to get jumping into fighting the infected, stealthing through the zones, you know, getting in gunfights with humans and it being intense. That's what people are replaying for. So if they can get it right with that game, it could be wonderful. Because the amount of downtime in any video game is kind of crazy. You don't realise just how much of it there is. Like right now, you are watching downtime. Not only in the gameplay, as we both traverse and talk and, you know, uncover the mystery of this weird brazier that's been burning for thousands of years. Or there's some dude that came in and lit it with his lighter every so many weeks because he's legit. But right now, this is a down moment, and it's a good moment in building the pacing of the game on those early playthroughs, because it gives you the calm before the storm. It gives you the lulls that really, you know, they set you up for the big highs, and they're very important. But if you look at it right now, even just then you saw me, I'm checking to see if I can skip this, because all of this is interesting on a first playthrough, and then on playthroughs afterwards it's less interesting. Like right now I'm thinking it's a cutscene and I can actually control Chloe. And here's a question for you folks. Was this originally in God of War 3 where they did the super close angle like this, or did that exist somewhere else? Because I like to think that God of War 3 came up with it and a lot of games used it. Because normally on the shimmying parts the camera was never that close. And think about it, how many games had shimmying through tight cracks? Lots of them. And there were those instances where the camera would always be pulled out into quite a modest position, and then you skip to God of War 3, and they pushed it all the way in there, didn't they? And it was very striking and very different. Oh, here's an interesting one. So, puzzles not exactly my forte, but this one is a really cool puzzle, I think. You have to mirror both pictures on either side using these shapes creatively. And I can't tell you the fastest way to do this because I don't know, but what I can tell you is at the end of this puzzle, I'm going to walk around the area slowly, showing you each piece and showing you where they sit on the grid. So if you can't watch what I do and follow it, or you just want to see the final result and imitate that, you can do that. But the idea is, from this perspective here, you have to have the two slim parts together to form the horn of Ganesh. And then from there, they have to be part of the axe on the other picture. It's pretty complicated and actually really, really cool. I like this puzzle a lot. But that part just there has to be where it originally was, but I'm moving pieces to get them in position, and this was going really well for about 60% of it, and then I realised that I needed something to be somewhere else, and I started moving it, and my brain just kind of went, ooh, and I didn't know what I was doing for that point. But up to that point, everything was going great. And so, like, just then, the right-hand side now is correct, but the left isn't. And the left isn't because the crouching man needs to be over on the right, the woman needs to be over on the left, or whatever the middle thing is, and then the axe needs to be further to the right. So, it's close to being correct right now, but there's a couple of pieces that are in the wrong area. So that one is now in the right area. Do you see the axe that's over here, though? This can't sit here. That cannot stand there. That has to stand in the middle. But in order for you to stop it in the middle, you have to have something for it to hit. And that's where this can become kind of tricky. So I think this is the part where I realised that I had to change the order, and I kind of blurred my way through. Which brings us to another interesting thing when it comes to games. Anybody who played Castlevania Lord of Shadows will know that, I think it was Mercury Stream, was the devs. They gave you the option to skip puzzles, but you lost out on the bonus for doing the puzzles. I think that is one of the greatest options in a video game, but I do not think it should be available on the first playthrough. I think you should have to solve them. It should only be a second playthrough thing, and I don't remember how it worked on that game. It might have worked that way, but I think that would be something really, really cool in Uncharted. So if you were coming to it like this and you didn't want to do the puzzles, you could just flick that button and boom, you could get past it. What Uncharted has instead is the hint system, where if you dilly-dally around an area for too long, at the bottom left-hand corner there will be a D-pad prompt that pops up, and it will say hint. And when you press it, it'll generally forward the camera to where you're supposed to go, or it'll give you some kind of really arbitrary hint. And some of them are really fucking stupid. Some of them come up while you're playing too. There's this wonderful one that comes up every so often when you're fighting, which says, stay in cover to regenerate health faster. It's like, dude, the only reason I fucking died is because I'm playing on the hardest difficulty and the cover's shit. So, I know I can regenerate life in cover, but I was in cover and I got killed in cover, so how the fuck do I utilise your fantastic tip there when it was garbage? So there's a whole host of really funny moments where the game's like, maybe you should shoot them back, retard. And you sit there just thinking, dude, just let me play, just let me do this. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna make it work. Shut your mouth. So there's one piece missing now, and it's the left-hand side piece that forms the axe. Not that one, this one. And I've realised that this one needs to be moved into the middle. So I need a piece to put on this end part so that it can land in the middle. So I think that's where I start fucking up. Yeah, this might be where I had my brain fart. I should have pushed the one across from me this way, I think. Oh no, maybe this is okay actually. This'll work. Maybe I didn't have a brain fart. Anyhow, guys, there's probably a video on the internet of doing this in 2 or 3 moves. YouTube that one. You know, you come to my videos to get through the shooting sections. You don't come from mine for the cerebral, crazy, super good puzzle solving, because my brain's crappy when it comes to that. I can get this stuff done, and I do enjoy doing them, but I ain't going to set any records for doing it. But there you go. So right now, if you look at the position here, you have the 2 axe pieces in the middle and closest to this side of the room. You have the weird squiggly guy on the left-hand side in this corner just here, and then the other one is offset in the middle. So if you look at where everything is in relation to the board on the floor and their pictures, just line this up. You don't have to follow all the steps if you don't want to. You can just imitate this, and then it should be okay. But yeah, that is a pretty tricky puzzle, and I like it a lot. I think it's a cool one. And here is more of the Indian mythology. I don't know if I talked about this in that other video, because that other video was so long, and then I went and got drunk, and I forgot. So, one of the things I really like about Uncharted is it's kind of like horrible history books, and I don't know if that phrase will translate, but in this country, and hopefully in other countries, there is these books for kind of like teenagers that you read at school, or you read when you're in primary school, any of that age. And it's like the terrible Tudors, the like the horrible Vikings. They're incredibly palatable history books for kids that teach you about certain cultures and certain parts of history, while still being interesting, because they put it in such a way, they phrase it in such a manner that kids don't just fall asleep because it's some old guy with big glasses, a large nose, and you can't help but stare at his facial hair, which is in his nose because his beard is so epic that his entire face looks like it's growing trees. Like, that type of stuff, not always the best unless it's presented in the proper way, whereas these books were really good for stimulating young minds. Uncharted, in a lot of ways, is that to me as an adult. I really like how they go to different parts of the world, they go to different cultures, they go to different folklores and myths, and then they bring little aspects of it forward, and just by playing the game, you're learning all about, you know, Ganesh, and learning all about these Indian folklores, which I don't really know too much about that side of that kind of stuff. So it's really fascinating, and I like the way it's presented, so that the stuff that's in the puzzles, the stuff that's, you know, in the journals that you can read, the treasures and everything, all of it has got some kind of, you know, relation to actual history and actual beliefs, and you can learn these interesting things. And it's one of the things that I enjoy the most, just cultures that I wouldn't really think to look into. I get to have a little bit of, you know, the more romanticised aspects of their folks and folklore and their myth and everything. But here is 2 guys, which you can deal with quite quickly. Make sure to steal both guns. You don't have to worry about Nadine. She's going to betray you later, spoiler alert. And then shoot that guy and we can push forward. So now we're going to start having a couple of firefights. And I believe, isn't it the part with the elephant coming up, or is that later? Because the elephant section is going to get skipped, guys. It's a really touching, interesting moment, but you don't have to do it. Ah, here we go. This is the bloody car section. So this is not that hard, but some of the cover and some of the positions make it more dangerous than it should be. So immediately kill those 2 guys, jump into the water. If you die right now, it's up to the game, because she sometimes gets stuck in the water on weird bits of geometry. Very frustrating. Jump up here. Immediately go up here, climb up, go to the right-hand side. There's one guy to your right. Nadine just killed him. Swap out for his Rafika, and then swap your shoulder and peek out here. There's 2 guys to kill. Once you kill the 2 guys, the truck is going to wait for you to push forward, and then when you push forward, it's going to move forward as well. All of your movements will trigger spawns and trigger the truck. The next spawn is the toughest spawn in this section, and there is no checkpoint just yet, so you don't have to be too tentative, but just know you're going to jump across this void and you're going to get attacked by 2 guys on cover and the truck's going to shoot you from behind. There is no good cover here, so you need to nail these dudes as quick as you can and then jump up and go into cover. I go up against this wall and start getting shot by the truck. I go against this and hope the other dude doesn't shoot me. All I'm doing right now is waiting for a regen so I can climb up. My original strategy here was to bum rush the 2 dudes and beat them up, and it does work, it works wonders, but for every time it works, you can have an attempt where it fails, and I wanted a little bit more of a safer strat. So if my strat just then doesn't work for you, just bum rush them, you'll get it eventually. But there's no checkpoint yet, guys, and you need to be moving forward. So, once again, the ugliest part of the Lost Legacy is all the beautiful graphics on the jungle and on the leaves and on the trees and on the plants and on all the awesome, nature. But the enemies can see through it, and you can't. So you're going to be playing guess where the body is, judging by the muzzle flash, and a lot of the times you're going to take hits that you don't deserve because you shouldn't be getting hit because it should work both ways. I don't know how hard it would be to program the AI to not be able to see through the jungle, to just instantly laser you through shit when they can't get line of sight, but I feel like it shouldn't be that difficult. It should just be some kind of slider or some kind of behaviour that you script in there that says if there is anything between enemy and player, it has a big hit on their hit potential. Like, take them from 98%, which is what it is at the moment, to something like 60, and have it so that they shoot wide, and that they don't immediately shoot where you are, they have to guess. So they shoot where they think you are, or where they last saw you. And then of course, if they get line of sight to you and there's nothing in the way, then boom, have them be merciless robot terminators. But I feel that, like right now, he shouldn't be hitting me here. He shouldn't. There's no way he can see me. He just can't. He can guess, and maybe that's what he was doing, and maybe he's the best guesser on the planet, but I feel like it's an unnecessary frustration that we have to deal with in a game that is already frustrating because it's very biased towards the enemies than the player. But the truck busts here, and I believe you're going to get a checkpoint on this section now. So once you swing across, climb up and immediately go behind this piece of cover just here. If you get into trouble here from grenades, to the left is a wall. Jump over it, but do not drop. If you drop, you're going to slide down the hill. This is really good cover if you have pistol ammo and if you have to get away from grenades. But at the moment, there's a couple of guys and Nadine is going to be fighting them, and then there's the truck to the right of you. I don't have any bullets. This is when Uncharted gets difficult, because they have infinite rounds, and I don't. So, I'm waiting for a cheeky head to shoot it, and I get a body shot, which isn't helping, and now we're in the wonderful situation of needing bullets. You can wait right now, and Nadine might shoot them enough to kill them, but waiting for her to shoot them to kill them is not a good strategy because it takes too long. So, I push forward to see if I can see any weapons, see if I can get the enemies to rush me. You'll notice these enemies do not rush. They are not the gas mask men. These guys just kind of chill out, and boom, Nadine gets a headshot, so there's only one guy left. This is my turn to go in there and punch him in the mouth. So, I end up... I don't even know what's going on right now. I don't know why she slid like she did, because I can guarantee I was not pressing that direction, but such is the game. Put me in a bad spot, nearly got killed, but I get a pistol, there's a micro Uzi, there's one dude up there, we spray him down, and now we just need to push up and be careful of the armoured vehicle. So once you climb up here, immediately go behind this piece of cover here to stop the vehicle from shooting you, and the music stops, which means you can get a bit and piece of ammo. Climb up here, 2 guys to shoot now. To your left, on that building, there's 2 dudes jumping across. Shoot both of them before you climb across, and then you'll skip the whole nonsensical punch-out that happens. Jump across the mud, slide and jump, and then as you get to the top of this, the truck is going to turn up again, along with a couple of other bad guys. So, pick up the P90, or whichever weapon you prefer, jump over here, go into cover, and this is the end of this sequence pretty much. There's a ton of guys and an armoured guy. So this is, if you had any grenades, is where you would use your grenades, but because I don't, I'm going to blind fire. The good part about the piece of cover that I'm on here is he cannot break it, but if this guy drops down, you're dead. So luckily enough, blind fire is god tier. Pick up his spaz, and if anybody gets close, introduce them to the concept of Linda Hamilton in T2. But there's that guy, put him down with the Uzi. Anybody else? This is destructible cover, obviously be very careful of it. And then back over here. I think there's one dude left. It might just be the truck. Yeah, it's just the truck. So I'm going to use this as an opportunity to try and get some ammunition. And then I'm going to jump up here and I'm going to hit the doorway and get the checkpoint. So the doorway is one of those arbitrary smack it a few times, but I have cheats on, so I go through on the first attempt because I'm a wizard. We fall down into the water, and then we're back in a low moment of the game, another one of those peaks and valleys, as we explore with our torch on. And is it just me, guys, or is the plume of light from the torch, you know, that central beam, it looks a bit hazy in this game, a little bit like, I don't know, it doesn't look good to me. This right now looks great. You know the cone of light and how the light moves dynamically and throws shadows and casts everything? I think the circle looks great. I think the beam looks weak. And I only started noticing it on my second playthrough. But I feel like whatever the graphic that they've used for that central beam, I think it's a bit too heavy. It's like a fuzzy, weird thing in front of your character, and for whatever reason, cosmetically, it's 100% personal, guys. It triggers my balls off. I don't know why. And then we get to fight with this dude. So this is really fun, and it's good practice. Same rules apply. That is a push, and it doesn't damage you. You can't seem to dodge it. So what you want to do with this guy is you want to dodge his hits and don't even try and punch him. After you've dodged his hits correctly, he'll turn his back to you, and that means you can hit him. That was just me sucking. So 1, 2, 3, and boom, now you can hit him. But it's really important to know, guys, because you're going to fight this guy later on and it's a lot more difficult. This enemy has an auto-block system. You will never punch him unless you punch him from behind or unless he's interested with Nadine. So you want to watch him and you want to press the buttons in sequence with his arms movement. If you mash circle, you'll get hit. It has to be timed. I really like it that they've made it that way, but it's also made it kind of difficult because this is a game that runs at 30 frames per second, so you don't get the longest time to react. Your inputs aren't, 100% there, that you can get hit even though you swear you pressed circle. There's a whole host of issues with it, but just know that you generally have to dodge anywhere between 1 to 5 hits, so just watch what he does. The moment he turns his back is when you press square. Press triangle when he grabs you, everything else is circle, and just watch him. He'll always push at the beginning, and then he does a really quick jab, and then after that he does telegraphed jabs, which are easier. If he does the kick is the fastest one, that's the one that'll catch you out the most. But I don't see you struggling with that if you did the sword fight in the last game, or if you did Talbot in Uncharted 3, was it? He is very similar in a lot of ways, so I think you're going to be just fine. But there's a couple of parrots flying away as we push forward. A nice injection in colour into this very green and burnt sienna landscape. But keep on climbing, keep on pushing forward, and it gives us an opportunity in this quiet moment to talk about some other stuff. But I think this is the end of the video, so I don't want to get into too much because there's no point. But I love the lighting right now. It looks like it's either, going towards evening in the jungle or early morning where the sun isn't quite there. It's got that really nice, darkened hue to it. It's such a beautiful game. I really, really like the look of Uncharted 4. I think they nailed it so well. But thank you for watching, and you take care now.